Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football. As always, I'm your host, Jeremiah Martinez, and I'm here again for another action-packed show for you guys today. It is around 8:30-ish here in the morning on a lovely, lovely Northern California Monday morning. And the big story that I want to start off with today, especially I want to start off the week with, is Ben Roethlisberger said he is returning for his 14th NFL season. And, you know, when this was announced, I wasn't really surprised. I didn't think he would really retire, but I do get the fact that he did say he wanted to take the offseason to evaluate his options here, which is fair. You know, he is going to turn 35, or I think he is already 35, but, you know, he's not getting any younger. But on Friday, he did tweet out about his decision. He says he informed the team he was looking forward to his 14th season, and he said he will give Steeler Nation his absolute best. So, looks like Big Ben is going to be the guy next year for the Steelers. I think he can be the guy, barring any type of injury. I think he can be the guy for the next couple years. I think he has 2 to 3 good prime years left. And, you know, when you look at this Steelers team with Big Ben coming back, you got Le'Veon Bell playing at a high level who will eventually get a new contract, I think. And with Antonio Brown being signed for 4 more years, Martavis Bryant should get reinstated this year. It should be more likely for that to happen. So when you get Big Ben, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, and then the potential return of Martavis Bryant, that this offense is going to be even better than last year. You know, I think with not having that number 2 option for Big Ben really did hurt this offense in a way, because, you know, when you are constantly covering, double teaming Antonio Brown, you know, the other receivers on this team like Eli Rogers, Sammy Coates, they look like they couldn't get it done. They look really inconsistent at times. I actually liked what I saw from Eli Rogers last year, but I didn't think he was a number 2 guy. To me, I think he's a number 3 guy at best. But when you look at, you don't forget Ladarius Green is on this team as well. You know, he was signed to take over the starting tight end spot for Heath Miller, who retired last year. So this team has potentially could be the best offense in the league in 2017. And with Big Ben, you know, he's only been sacked 37 times over the past 2 years. You know, that's easily the best stretch of his career. But I think, you know, time's running out for the Steelers right here with Big Ben, especially Le'Veon Bell. You know, he is technically getting up. Le'Veon Bell is only 26, but he is a running back, so he is going to get beat up a lot. Antonio Brown, we don't know how long he can play at this high level. So I do think, you know, the window is kind of closing a little bit for Big Ben and a potential another Super Bowl run. So with the talent that I've seen on this team and what I think they can do, I think this is the second best team in the AFC. Because I can't put them at the top team. That's the Patriots. You can't do that. But this is easily, for me, it's a no-brainer that this is the second best team. And, you know, a lot of people will say, what about the Oakland Raiders? Well, how come they're not the second best team? Well, you know, I can't put them up there yet. I do think they are the best team in the AFC West, which is a very tough division. They are easily a third best team. I can't put the Raiders there yet. You know, they haven't won a playoff game with this core group. I think for me to put them up there, they have to win a playoff game. They do got some really great talent. They got some great talent, and I do expect them to win this division and even be even better than 12-4. Who knows? But enough about the Raiders. I still think, this Steelers team is going to be a really good matchup for the Patriots. And I think this could be the team that can defeat the Patriots. I would like to. I can't put Oakland as the team to beat New England right now. I think there may be one more year left away. But when you look at the Steelers team, when you look at this offense, because you remember that championship game against the Steelers in the AFC championship game around this past winter. Le'Veon Bell, he got hurt in that game. He means so much to this team. When you take him out of this team, they couldn't get anything done on offense. That's nothing against Big Ben. I do think he's a very valuable part of this team. But when you have this team fully healthy and fully engaged, this can easily be the second best team. And I think if Le'Veon Bell did not get hurt in that game, I think that game would have been a little closer, and I think the Steelers would have had a better chance of possibly winning that game. But, back to what I was saying about, Le'Veon Bell getting hurt, Big Ben was in that game. He didn't look the same after that. That's not a knock on him. I'm not trying to hear a knock on him, but I do think if you take Big Ben out of this team, and let's just say Landry Jones was the starting quarterback, I can't even. It would be hard for me to have them win the AFC North, because I don't know what Landry Jones can do, and he has some good starts here and there, but I don't know as a full 16-game season, I don't know if he can carry the team like that. So if Big Ben wasn't going to be on this team, I couldn't be so sure if they would have won the AFC North, because the Ravens, they kind of got back on track last year. I think the Bengals can get back on track. I'm not even going to talk about the Browns because they're the Browns, but I think if Big Ben wasn't on this team next year, I couldn't put him as a division winner. So with Big Ben coming back, they're still a legit Super Bowl contender, and they're the second best team in the AFC. I just think the reason why I can't put them as the best team is just that their defense doesn't match up as the Patriots defense does. The Patriots, they had the bet. They got Dante Hightower back, one of the best linebackers in the game. No, most importantly, the leader of the Patriots. And then, when you look at what the Patriots did on offense, they added Brandon Cooks, who was an absolute speedster. So I do think when we head into this year, we're looking at, Big Ben. I do think he is someone that's going to. He has a lot of great football years left. I just think it's just a matter of what the Steelers do with the years he has left. So, Big Ben, his window is closing soon. I do think he has at least 2 years left. And, I do think he is really, very vital to this team. Because if he wasn't going to be on this team, it would have been tough to evaluate them as a Super Bowl contender. But, as of right now, you got Big Ben, you got Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown. Big Ben, possibly you can make an argument for him being a top 5 quarterback. Le'Veon Bell, probably the best running back in the game. Antonio Brown, the best receiver in the game. So when you have that kind of talent, you can easily go against the Patriots. And I can't put the Steelers as the number 1 team in the AFC yet because I don't know how that defense is going to play. And, that defense did kind of had a little bit of a bounce back year. They did play pretty solid. But, the they're not that typical Steelers defense that we're usually accustomed to seeing. Like the Patriots, they had the number one scoring defense, and, that number one scoring defense really came to play in the final quarter and a half of the Super Bowl. So I do think the offense for the Steelers is there. I'm just not sure about the defense. And that's why I cannot put them as the best team yet. But they're definitely the number 2 team in the AFC, and they're not that far. I don't think they're not that far from the New England Patriots. And like I said, I can't put the Oakland Raiders at number 2 yet because, this group has not won a playoff game. They've only been to the playoffs once, but I do think they have a chance to make a deep playoff run this year. All right, well, when I return, I'm going to take my first break. But when I come back from that break, I'm going to discuss Marshawn Lynch and if he is the missing piece to the Oakland Raiders. And then what I think about him being involved with, this arm wrestling tournament that took place in Vegas. So I will discuss that when I return to Going to Meet Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And welcome back to Going to Meet Concepts Football Podcast. And, over the weekend, one of the stories that's kind of really took my eye a little bit, and that was a arm wrestling event that included 30 current and former players of the NFL. The players included James Harrison, Marshawn Lynch, who's been talked about in the news recently, probably going to Oakland. Then you got guys like Navarro Bowman, Kenny Stills, and Marquette King. So they're part of this group of current and former players that was involved in the arm wrestling tournament that took place at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. So the league is looking into this. They're investigating. And, it could be a violation of the NFL's gambling policy. It really can be. And, with the NFL having a team now in Vegas, there was a lot of concern about, the gambling and all that. And, a lot of NFL personnel, including players, they're not really allowed to kind of be involved in this sort of thing. For example, I think in 2015, there was a fantasy football convention that was going to feature NFL players, including Tony Romo. It was scheduled to be held in Vegas, but, it was canceled due to potential violations of the players that were going to be included in that event. So, the league is looking into this. This is actually going to be broadcast on CBS on May 27th through the 28th. The championship round will be shown on June 3rd. The actual event did take place in April 5th to the 9th, so this happened literally this past weekend. But, with this coming out, it does, I don't think the league is too concerned with the Raiders going to Vegas. But, they still have the policy of gambling in Vegas. And, I do want to talk about Marshawn Lynch again because he is one of the players in this that was involved in this story. And, he's more than likely going to the Oakland Raiders. I do like the deal. But I don't think this hurts his chances of returning to the NFL. I really don't think so. Unless, he violates something. But if the league does see that, this is a huge violation of Marshawn Lynch, because think about it, he's not really an NFL player right now. He's not. So, he won't receive that much punishment. But if he does go back, maybe there is a chance that he does receive punishment. But it shouldn't hurt the Raiders' interest in him. I don't see the reasons why they wouldn't be in him. But, with him being involved in this arm wrestling tournament, it may hurt his chances of actually playing for the Raiders. I did say the league is investigating into this arm wrestling tournament over the past weekend. And, if he does return, if he does unretire, maybe the league does discipline Lynch a little bit. Maybe they give him a suspension if they really do see that he did violate the gambling policy. So maybe that may hurt his chances of actually playing for the Raiders. But I don't know if it will hurt his chance of being part of the Raiders team. So there's a huge difference in that thing. But if Marshawn Lynch, if he does get disciplined for this, if he does return, maybe let's just say if he doesn't get disciplined. If he doesn't get disciplined, if he returns to the NFL, is he going to mean so much to this Oakland Raiders team? Is he the missing piece that they need to go on a championship run? If you heard what I talked about in the last segment about Big Ben and the Steelers, how they're the second best team, and I did say the Raiders, I can't put them there yet because they haven't won a playoff game. There is a lot of weaknesses on the Raiders team, most notably on the defensive side of the ball. And, they didn't have a legit running back last year, even though Ladarius Murray was the leading touchdown rusher. Ladarius Murray was very inconsistent in my opinion. But, with Marshawn Lynch, of course he would have to get released by the Seahawks or traded by them. But that's probably going to be a given. I don't see the Marshawn Lynch coming back to the Seahawks. So, I do think if Marshawn Lynch does go to the Raiders, is he really this missing piece? Is he going to mean a lot to this team? And the reason why I brought up this arm wrestling, possible investigation is, it could really hurt Lynch's chance of actually playing in a game for the Raiders if he indeed was involved. And it looks like he actually was involved. And, the league is investigating as a violation of the NFL's gambling policy. So as of right now, he is not currently unretired. He's still unretired. So he probably won't get any discipline now because he's not an actual player. James Harrison, maybe, and a lot of these other players probably will. But we have to wait till that plays out for that to, talk more about it. But, as of now, though, Marshawn Lynch is still unretired. He hasn't officially come out. We just had a lot of speculation. Just had a lot of rumors. That's all it is right now. I don't think, with this happening to Marshawn Lynch, the Raiders are probably still interested. And if somehow that this falls through and the Raiders and Marshawn Lynch are no longer interested in each other or one or the other, I can see the Raiders, possibly taking a flyer on Adrian Peterson before the draft. Or if they don't do that, they can probably look into the draft too. They can get a guy like Joe Mixon because he's probably going to be there. They can get Dalvin Cook. He has, for some reason, his stock has dropped. But that is the one position that the Raiders do need. And then, if Marshawn Lynch, if he is that missing piece, then maybe, this arm wrestling tournament can really actually hurt the Raiders if Marshawn Lynch actually does sign with his hometown team. Because we don't know if he still has it or not. We don't know. And, I really hope Marshawn Lynch still has it. I would like to see him play in the NFL one more time. But I don't think the Raiders are worried about Lynch in this arm wrestling tournament. They're probably still going to be interested. Like I said, the only thing that's really is concerning if he'll get disciplined, if he'll be reinstated. But as of now, Marshawn Lynch is still retired. He's not part of the Raiders yet. The Raiders running backs still include DeAndre Washington and Jalen Richard. And if they don't get on Marshawn Lynch, I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world. There's too much talent in the draft. Adrian Peterson is still in the market. They can maybe look at Jamal Charles too, but I think Jamal Charles may not even get signed by a team until probably July. There's a lot of ways that the Raiders can go to address the running back position, because I do think that running back position is the missing piece for the Raiders Super Bowl run. Sure, their defense is not as capable. They're not as great as other defenses around the league. But when you have an offense like the Raiders have, you can keep opposing teams off the field. And, that offense, we saw how this defense can play when the offense is fully healthy. The defense plays better when the offense plays good. So, they complement each other. And then when Derek Carr was hurt, of course, the defense was nowhere to be found. But I do think with possibly the Raiders being a really great offensive team can really influence the defense to be even greater. All right, well, I'm gonna take my last break. And when I get back, I'm going to discuss a couple of defensive extensions, and as well as Tony Romo being honored at the Dallas Mavericks game. When I return to the Going to Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to Going to Meet Concepts Football Podcast. So before we go for the day, we got a couple of defensive signings that occurred over the past weekend. Well, the Ravens did cut Ladarius Webb. They did cut him 4 weeks ago. But they decided to bring back the veteran to a 3-year deal at a reduced rate. And the Ravens did cut Webb, to clear up cap space. And the Ravens did sign Tony Jefferson, the top safety, in free agency this year. So this move by bringing back the Ladarius Webb, this is a credible depth at the safety position. Ladarius Webb is set to back up Eric Weddle and Tony Jefferson. He can definitely be definitely be added to the slot cornerback position. So this is a very strong secondary that we're hitting into for the Ravens. And with the fact that you got Ladarius Webb, who's been on this team since 2009. And then you got Eric Weddle, who you signed last year, and then Tony Jefferson this year. It's a very good core group. So I like this signing for the Ravens. It brings really great depth. It brings stability. And, for Ladarius Webb to come back on a reduced deal, I think that says more about him. I really do think it says more about him because, the Ravens, they have I think they're talented enough to win the AFC North. I think they are. And they're definitely talented enough to get a wild card berth next year. So, I do like this signing for the Ravens. It definitely improves the depth of safety. And, they didn't have an experienced backup behind Weddle and Jefferson. They did cut Kendrick Lewis. They didn't re-sign Matt Elam. And they removed the tender off restricted free agent Marquise Huff. So, that is one signing that occurred over the weekend. And then another one that I really did like was the Falcons extended Desmond Trufant to a 5-year, $68.75 million deal. And there's $42 million guaranteed. And, Desmond Trufant, he is the best cornerback in Atlanta. It's definitely the lockdown corner. He's definitely heading towards to being one of the best in the game. So, with so many young talent on this Atlanta defense, which they play really good down the stretch, by the way, besides, the Super Bowl when they allowed that 25-point lead, or when they blew it, that 25-point lead. There's a lot of great young talent on this defense. And, most of the guys on this defense are on their rookie deals. So, they can afford to keep Desmond Trufant. And they can definitely keep Robert Orford to a relatively good deal. They can keep their two top cornerbacks for the next decade. So Robert Orford and Desmond Trufant look like they're going to be a mainstay for this Atlanta Falcons defense. And this contract definitely puts Trufant in elite company. I remember the Redskins gave Josh Norman a 5-year, $75 million deal last season. He did get $15 million guarantees. The Cardinals in 2014 gave Patrick Peterson a 5-year extension worth $70 million, with $48 guaranteed. So those are the only two cornerbacks that have a higher value than Trufant. So it definitely puts him among the elites in the game contract-wise. So I do think that, now he has to prove that he can be one of those top cornerbacks. Because, with an average of $14.75 million over 3 years, that makes him among the 4 highest paid players at the cornerback position. So, I do like the move. I do like that Atlanta is keeping their 2 top cornerbacks. Because that is something, this is a quarterback-driven league, so you need those cornerbacks to cover those receivers. And they do got a great pass rusher in Vic Beasley, so I like where the Falcons are heading. All right, so for the last story of the day, it looks like that Tony Romo is going to be honored on the Mavericks bench. And what I mean by that, he's going to be honored as a Maverick for a day. So the Mavericks are planning to honor Tony Romo at their home finale on Tuesday nights by making Dallas quarterback Tony Romo a Maverick for the day. So what this means is the Mavericks intend to have Romo on the bench, and he's going to be in uniform for their final regular season game against the Denver Nuggets. So it looks like that Tony Romo, he's going to be suited up. He's going to actually be in basketball uniform, and he's just going to ride the bench one more time for the Mavericks. So that is something that I do like. I like how they're honoring Tony Romo in that way. The only thing, the Mavericks, they're not even in contention anyway for, a playoff berth anyway. So it's not like that, it's not like that the Mavericks are contending for a playoff berth, so I'm okay with it. I do think this is a good thing for the Mavericks and Tony Romo, and definitely will bring in some tickets, definitely will bring in some money for the home finale for Dallas Mavericks. All right, well, that's going to conclude the show, and I'll be back tomorrow to discuss any type of news that happens over the next 24 hours. You can catch the show in a variety of ways: iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, and on the website, gsmcpodcast.com. As always, I'm Jeremiah Martinez. You guys have a great day. Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. You guys come back tomorrow. Have a great day.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.